Welcome to the show. Today we are talking about the movie Didi. Let me pull the
It's not that hard to
trailer.
remember.
It's two syllables. Oh shoot. You know what? I didn't share my screen. No wonder it's not coming up. I'm like, why is this thing not working?
Sorry.
Operator error.
This is like it's our very first show ever.
It's our very first show ever. So
and before we watch the trailer,
yeah.
I have a pair of feet.
Oh Lord. Let's just watch the trailer.
What was your name again?
Chris. All my friends just call me a Wang Wang.
What should I call you? You're never gonna survive high school.
You're like a lizard with your scaly ass eczema skin.
Pizza face!
Alright, lizard bitch.
Hey, just call me a bitch!
Bitch.
什么叫 bitch? 说这么话 Nobody likes you!
Drag me down. One time you could kill me, but I'll resurrect.
Max 啊，保持4.0的 GPA。哦 ，Chris 拍 video。
Yo, Wang Wang, don't even trip. You got strong ass teeth. You're handsome. That's why Maddie likes you, baby.
Lean into the person until your lips touch.
Have you ever played the nervous game before? Are you nervous?
Yes.
What?
I am nervous. I'm sorry.
Didi, are you sad?
Fine.
知道你这样做，别人会怎么看我？
I'm your son. I'm sorry I'm not bragging rights to your friends. If you guys need a filmer, I film.
So, who are those new people you've been hanging out with?
Friends.
Promise me you won't do anything stupid.
Please don't tell Mom. Are you ashamed of me?
Alright, I'm Didi.
No, you're beautiful.
I'm not for you.
No, I love you.
Didi, 你们就是我的梦想。But sometimes it's a little hard.
Okay. So much.
There's a lot here.
There's so much going on in this movie.
One of the reasons I like talking about movies like this is because most people probably have never heard of this movie.
No.
It's one of these. It's just kind of comes out of nowhere. It probably will fly under the radar. It won't make a top 10 probably. It could be one that shows up in award times, and that's when people will finally hear about it.
Well, I mean, it was won at Sundance, so
I know, but even the Sundance,
win.
unless you're into film, most people don't know about Sundance either.
I
It's
know,
when
but
it gets into
may get to our
the bigger stuff. So as you can see, the premise is really just about this boy's journey in life. It's like the last few months before school, starting high school. So it's that transitional period of junior high, middle school, whatever you want to classify it as, into high school and finding himself. But with the twist of a little bit of a cultural shock between being an American teenager and an Asian American teenager.
Because that's not the same. And did you see? I don't know if people understand. I'm sure everyone. Hopefully, you grew up with Asian kids. You did. I did. But
or just any other culture, period, than your own.
But specifically, Asian parents hold them to such a high standard when it comes to schoolwork and education, and you always have to get an A, and you have to do the best you can. And it's interesting because culturally, like my family's like, you need to do good in school, but it wasn't, I don't think, that level of pressure.
Yeah.
So like even our Indian friends, they're Asian. India's Asian, in case you didn't know. Yeah. But you know, that whole, like, you need to do better, you need to start taking college courses, like, and it's like too much sometimes. Like,
yeah. Thankfully, one of my closest friends who's no longer with us, he passed away a year or so ago. they had a lot of that culture stuff, but he was Filipino, so they didn't care about AIDS as much. But there was a lot of very much rich culture. Like it was a different world stepping into his house
Yes.
than stepping into my house.
Yes,
And
for sure.
A lot of his personality as he became an adult kind of shined through on the saving of money and how to figure out how do you save money. He was very much a hoarder from a standpoint of
Everything.
buying whatever you can. Not a hoarder in like a bad sense, but hoarder in buying stuff that could potentially save him money or make him money.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
He was a couponer too.
He was what?
The couponer.
Oh,
where
very
he'd have,
much.
like, you want some toothpaste?
Yes, very
You need
much.
deodorant?
But I will
Like,
tell you
fabric
this:
stuff.
he was also very giving in that sense of, you know, when 2020 came, we weren't hurting for anything. But he calls me, he's like, "Dude, I found toilet paper. You need some toilet paper?" I said, "No, I don't need any toilet paper." He goes, "Dude, come on, bro, I got some toilet paper." And
Take the
anytime I went to
toilet
his house, he sent me home with a bag of crap from his stockpile of stuff because he'd use his coupons to such an extent where they owed him money.
Mm.
And
was a
so he'd
couponer.
have way too many tubes of toothpaste and deodorants. And I'd come home and my wife would be like, what is that bag? I'm like, well, we got some deodorant, we got some toothpaste, we got some hand soap.
You
And,
never need anything again.
you know, so
We
some of that
digress.
related to this, but I miss him.
We
I miss
digress.
him. He's one of my closest friends. But anyway.
So the movie Didi, it's about this little boy. So his mom calls him Didi, which I'm assuming is a nickname of some sort. His actual name is Chris Wang.
What I found interesting, too, there's just 3 levels of his name in this movie.
Yes.
There's Didi at home.
Yes.
There's Chris with his normal group of friends and stuff. Then he meets this new group of friends that aren't. I did like that they weren't suddenly a bad group of people. It was just a different group of people. And they call him Asian Chris.
Right. Well, and his other friends are calling him Wang Wang.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So there's 4 actually.
Yeah, Wang Wang. His actual name's Chris.
And you get to see kind of it's really watching him navigate not just this summer and these people and stuff. It's really trying to find his own place.
He just hasn't found where he fits in yet, and that makes me sad.
Well, and I think that's very common transitioning out of the elementary school, middle school into the high school world. Because when you get into high school, you really start to become who you are.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you get out of high school and you get into college, you become an adult, things change again. But you start finding you already kind of have set what your style is, the music you like, that group of friends are already kind of there. But when you get into high school, a lot of those things change.
Yeah.
You don't hang out with all those people you hung out with for years sometimes. You know, some people are lucky enough that they keep those same people together.
Yeah. If you have the same group of friends forever,
like,
you are very lucky.
I have a lot of friends that are my same friends from high school. You know, my best friend's my same best friend since elementary school, but I don't talk a lot of the other ones that I knew from elementary school, you know. So, but one of the big things we talked about a lot about this movie is the cultural stuff. And the movie itself is good. It's not overly exciting. It's a
talkie.
Because you're dealing with real life. So sometimes it's not overly exciting. You're just watching the mundane day to day. But when you infuse culture into it, it comes into play. And what I liked about this one is it's not an in-your-face cultural thing. It's just their existence at home. Because a lot of times you deal with these kind of things, you're seeing very much, you are Asian, you will do this, this, and this. This didn't do that.
Yeah.
This was just their behavior at home set the tone of their cultural difference of when he leaves the house.
Correct. And it's interesting. I think that's the level that I feel like is sad at some points is he is trying to figure out who he is outside of his culture in a society that's very American.
Yeah.
And I don't know that everybody understands that. In addition to trying to figure out who, you're that weird, awkward kid going in high school and trying to figure that out. But then imagine trying to figure out culturally how to assimilate into a very American culture where you may not speak the language or you've just learned it or whatever it may be. So, those were like the people that I kind of gravitated toward, and I was super kind. Like there's this one girl, I specifically remember this one girl, Erica, who moved like during the middle of like not third grade. We were 13 or 14 and she had just come from Mexico and she didn't even speak English and they threw her into class. This was before ESL classes were like very big. They didn't have it readily available for every single class, and just trying to help her like navigate what the teachers were saying or what to do and where to go. And
then you abandoned her because I've never heard of this person.
This was when I lived in Wichita Falls. So that's why I'm saying, especially there, ESL was not like here. You came here and it's like, oh yeah, there's a translator that can help you throughout the day. There, it's like the girls, we just had to help her and figure it out. So that's one thing that made me kind of sad is he's just trying to figure out who he is from a very Asian, his family's from Taiwan, so a very strict Taiwanese culture, a very female upbringing, because he's with his mom, his sister, and his grandmother. So he is surrounded by women, and that's another thing.
Which is another interesting dynamic, because not only there's that, but the mom and the grandmother are at odds, because the grandmother is the dad's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an ongoing thing of like her constantly trying to help his mom, but also constantly questioning her, because
the mom's
it's her
like,
song.
if you were a better wife, your husband would be here.
Yeah,
not realizing he had to go away to work to make money.
Yeah, he hadn't left the family. He's just not there.
He's not there because he's working in Taiwan, and the grandma is like, if you were a better wife, he would be here. So constantly that. But then in our cultures, I don't know about yours, if you take care of who you would bring, like she brought her mother-in-law to live with them.
Yeah.
And that
my culture, we put y'all in a home.
Yeah, but see, culturally, that's what we would do too. Like Nana, in this case, Nai is there because that's what you do. So I feel like too, him not having a physical male presence makes this even harder, because there's things he can't go talk to his mom about, these dudes and girls and skateboarding and all that. Like that's a guy thing kind of. And I think his sister tries to help, because his sister's older and you can see she's more assimilated.
Well,
she has some friends.
She's also,
but she's going away to college.
She's also elevated and met the standards that they look at for the cultural, and he's completely opposite.
Yeah,
if you
she's
notice
been getting the good grades. She got into college.
If you notice in the trailer, when some of the other people are asking the mom, it's a quick snip, so you may mention it, but it's a scene and they're talking about their own kids. And she talks about, oh, she's going to college, she's got straight A's. And he makes little funny videos because he's doing like YouTube videos and stuff. Yeah. But clearly wants to do more with that. And that's when he meets this other group of kids, which are skateboarders. And he just starts filming their skateboarding. But because he doesn't know who he is and how to do certain things, he keeps sabotaging his own thing. And then there's that element that we see all the time where you meet your new friends, you start kind of ignoring your old friends. This wasn't a case where it made him a bad person. It was just he was neglecting one group because he thought this other group was where his place was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, he didn't turn on his old friends. Like you see in a lot of these movies where they talk trash about him or they do this just to fit in. In this case, he was just hanging out with different people and not those other people anymore. Yeah. And you kind of get I love that they didn't do the standard reunion. Everything's okay. We still love each other. It's done with a very simple, like nod of the head when they kind of come back in contact. They're back both in high school, and they may not be friends like they were before anymore, but there's an understanding now.
Yeah,
we're still here. We're hey, we're together still.
It's like, okay, I acknowledge you.
Yeah. I'm okay. Hey, I still see you there, and I still see you there. It wasn't like I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. Do guys ever have the, hey, I'm sorry we didn't get along or whatever happened?
Some do, but I went through a lot of that same thing with numerous friends that I'm still friends with today, where I didn't talk to somebody because, and they've done it to me, where they get into a girlfriend relationship or a boyfriend relationship, and you don't talk to them as much. Yeah. Not because I purposely was ignoring them or vice versa. You start spending all your time with this new person you deeply care about. And then a lot of times, the irony of it is you're still spending the same amount of time with those people, but it feels less.
Yeah.
Because you're not calling them more as often, or you're not over there as often, but you're still going and doing movies or whatever. And then sometimes, like with my own best friend, there was some times that like when we were no longer in the same neighborhood and stuff, we didn't see each other as often. I had a new group of friends. He had a new group of friends. I started dating. He was dating. We didn't talk for a long time. And then he used to yell at me about, well, as soon as you broke up with a girlfriend, we suddenly became friends again.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got a new girlfriend. I guess I would tell him, hey, I'm talking to this new girl and whatever. He goes, okay, I guess I'll talk to you in 6 months.
Oh, wow.
And I had to make that conscious effort to be like, okay, he's getting his feelings hurt. And I'm not meaning anything doing this. I've never had an intention of doing that. So I would start trying to make a conscious effort to talk to him and whatever.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing, this movie just got me on the feels in so many ways. And it's not, like you said, it's not anything extraordinary, extra special, but it's just, I think too, the time period that we're in, like they still had MySpace. We're in the early 2000s. And so I think at this point is when social media is just taking off. So the idea that like you can chat and you can be someone over here, but then in person, you can't even really physically have that conversation because you're too nervous or too scared.
Yeah.
Then I just feel bad at one point with his mom. He and his mom are just not meshing.
And that's the other thing I liked is they made it the normal, like she's trying her best. She's not being overbearing. She's not trying to do anything. She's a good parent.
Yeah.
He's just this angsty teenager who thinks she's a horrible human being because she doesn't let him do whatever. She's always micromanaging him from a standpoint, and probably more so from the Asian culture mentality, where in reality she just wants what's best for him, and she doesn't understand him.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and I don't think he understands her.
Yeah, and he doesn't. Neither one of them. Where she's really trying, he never reaches out to try to explain himself.
Right.
He just thinks, "Come on, mom," that kind of mentality.
Yeah, and I think
Like,
the level of pressure she's putting on him, and not understanding that that's not where his interests lie, because I don't think she ever had a conversation with him, like you said.
Yeah.
But then again, he never had a conversation with her
He
until later on.
Yeah.
And these kids are there that are in the trailer, and at one point he's like, "Get out, get out, get out," and they're like, "Dude, you shouldn't talk to your mom that way."
I love that scene.
Because these kids are older kids.
Yeah, I
And
love
like, "You
that
shouldn't
scene
talk to your
because
mom
a
that
lot
way."
of times in real world, but also in movies more than anything, is the kids are always like, "Ha, you told her," and they go back. Where in this case, like I felt that. I mean, I think I even said it when we were watching the movie. I was like, "Oh, they ain't gonna like that," because it was very rude to her because he thought he was embarrassed by her reaction, not thinking about it's her mom. He was thinking about you're embarrassing me in front of my new older friends.
Yeah.
And the older friends understood, dude, you don't treat your mom like that, man. And that kind of like ends their situation, not because he did anything to them, and which I thought was a fresh, interesting twist. It was more like,
dude, we think we're gonna leave now.
Yeah, we don't need to be around this,
And then that's what leads to the discussion you see in the trailer where he's like, "Are you just like embarrassed at me? Do you even like me?" And that he's gone through all this time, and they've never had a conversation for him to understand. She's struggling because essentially she's having to be a single parent because the dad's off working somewhere else. And she's having to be a caregiver for Nai, who's
while being blamed to being a failure,
for being a failed mom, and she being a bad mom and a bad wife.
Yeah.
The other older daughter, who should be kind of helping, is leaving. So it's just going to really be her and this kid taking care of Nai for the next few years. And she wasn't doing very good, but she'd fallen down. You see it later in the thing. But I'm like, man,
then they have
some dysfunction.
They also make sure to have some moments where they connect.
Yeah.
And you can see, okay, there is a good relationship there. They just had to find their way back to that.
Correct. And
I think the ending, which is a very anticlimactic ending, but it's a very real ending to this part of his story, works perfectly because he kind of finds what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He kind of realizes that for everything that happened, and more importantly, after finally having a conversation with his mom, he figures out his own place, and it's okay to be myself, and it's okay to do this, and he sees his friend there, and there's a lot of stuff that kind of comes into play where it ends on a place where you're like, that's the end of that journey. And I thought it was handled well because it was all very subtle.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
It's like the new beginning of something.
Yeah, it wasn't that big. Like you could make a whole Didi 2 movie and all be his high school, college years.
Correct.
And go a whole new journey if you wanted to.
Yeah. And just, I think too, I'm still stuck on that mom thing because that was just harsh.
Well, I think that a lot of kids.
There was a lot of, because he yells at her again later in the car, which you kind of saw in the trailer.
Well, I think the angsty teenager, and then there's a lot of kids that the biggest issue is they just don't understand what parents go through. Like excuse me.
You don't see your parents as people sometimes.
Yeah, and you don't see the struggles financially and mentally and the problems they're having, whether it's with each other or other people around them. And you're not supposed to, because if you're a good parent, you shield your kids from that. Like, and I tell a lot of my students, I'll bring up, you don't know how much work your parents are doing and how much trouble they went through to be able to bring you to class that day or to pay for class. And
that's
so I'll tell my
I
students,
always say thank you to the parents.
Yeah, I'll tell my parents, my kids in my classes all the time, sometimes just go tell your parents thank you today. And when they say why, just say for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Move on. Like I make a point to try to tell you thank you for dinner every time we eat, whether you paid for it, made it or not. Because you contributed one way or another, and I want to make sure you understand there's an appreciation there.
Yeah.
Because I know the struggles that we have.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're in an interesting place in our lives where my kids are now adults.
That's weird.
And they're starting to understand.
That's weird.
Well, but I'm seeing them without them coming to me directly and saying thank you so much for everything you did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing them understand because they're doing it now,
Mm-hmm.
and they know the financial and the stress, and it's spawned conversations about our last trip we did before this last one years ago when they were in school, and them not realizing that we were out of money at the trip and kind of hurting, but we made sure they ate and made sure to get home. And they're like, "Oh, we just thought you were just sharing food because you wanted to share." Like, we were broke as hell. Well, why didn't we know? It's like, because you're not supposed to know that, you know.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. And then, like I said, you infuse those cultural differences.
That's what I was going to say. The cultural thing about it. So, you know, like my dad is not from this country.
What?
He's a foreigner. My dad's from Guatemala. Oh, happy Independence Day in Guatemala today.
Okay.
Tomorrow is Mexican Independence Day.
All right.
You know, my mom's Mexican. She is from here, but very, very strict Mexican upbringing. So, you know, being a child of these immigrant folks, navigating the world, I think for me was easier because my mom understood culturally how it worked. And I think my dad has always been one of those people. He's very much like you, where he assimilates to whoever it is. He learns how to talk to people. He can have conversation with anybody just like you. Y'all get in there and do that. And I can't handle any of that. I can't handle people. But
the irony is I'm not a big fan of people.
No.
But I can do it.
But you can do it. And he can too.
I turn on my game face.
You know, I think too, because my dad worked on base for 20-something years or whatever, I think culturally he assimilated maybe a little faster because there were rules to follow and you follow the thing and you figure it out. My dad was not in the military. He just worked there. But, you know, it's interesting because they themselves are dealing with that. And you don't even think about what they dealt with to be able for, like you said, you to have life here. And and I think a lot of parents, like you see in here, Didi's mom, she's just trying to go with the flow. She doesn't really know, you know, she's just trying to figure it out. But then you have, like, my mom was different. You know, my mom's kind of like, argh. So my mom was like figuring out what was the best school, where to go, blah, blah, blah. So she was moving. She was a mover and shaker. And Didi's mom here is just like, she's just a mom. She's
always funny, even with the cultural stuff is, and I know the whole mentality is your parents always want kids to be better than they were.
Yes.
I wanted the same thing for my students and my kids, and I would love them to have a better life earlier, learn the stuff I learned earlier than I learned it, be better off than I was than at their age. And I think both my kids are better off than I was at their age already. And I love that. And to me, that feels like success. But the irony is always, or not always, but 90% of the time is your parents are yelling at you to do this, and they didn't do any of that. You know, like they didn't do the college stuff they're nagging you to necessarily do. Yeah. They didn't become those things they're telling you to become. And I know it's because to be better, but it's the irony that they don't always listen to you about what you want because they want you to be better. But forget that they went through the similar thing. We've all done that as we get older. Yeah. You know, like my dad used to always, you're going to go to college, you know this. My dad never went to college. Neither did my mom. Oh, you got to do this. You're going to do this. You need to do this. The only thing my dad could push really hard was working. Because my dad worked his ass off his whole life. My dad's still alive. I'm talking like my dad's no longer with us.
He's with us.
Yeah, and he worked multiple jobs sometimes. My mom worked for months because she got hurt. So I think they instilled that work ethic and that mentality of, you know, along with the martial arts mentality of really pushing herself. So I think there's a different level of culture in white people, I guess, of what the focus is, more focused as opposed to culture. It's more focused on specific things like don't be lazy. You know, it's very similar to Asian mentality, but it's not as widespread. It's different people. Like if your parents are hardworking people, they're going to fight you to be hardworking people. Your parents are rich people, they're going to fight you to be rich people. You know, it's that. It's like be me, you know.
But to the extreme.
Yeah,
a little more.
Be better than us or whatever, you know, or stay in the world that we're in. Where like Asian cultures, a lot of them, they're more like, you need to be of high standard. Even if you're poor.
Be a doctor.
Yeah, even if you're poor, you need to go to school so you can be better than us. Yeah. You can be better, you know, and it's always the irony and the hypocrisy of it don't make sense. Yeah. But they make sense. Yeah. You know. Anyway. Didi is in theaters now. It is one of those movies that may not connect with everybody because it's a slow one. It is talking. It is not very exciting. It is mundane life. So if you're one of those that doesn't like these kind of movies, you may not like this movie. I didn't thoroughly enjoy this movie. I did find it mundane and kind of, I hate saying cliched, but it is kind of a by the numbers coming of age story that we've seen a billion times. But again, that added cultural thing kind of elevates it.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was kind of sad at times, but I understood. I got it. I felt it.
And I love seeing Joan Chen. I hadn't seen her in forever.
The mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, good for her. That's
So,
it.
anyway, check out Didi in theaters now.
All right. And as always, make sure you go to our website, hollywoodmatrimony.com, because there's free stuff.
And they're going to be changing that here pretty soon. I got like 2-3 new ones that are fixing to pop up. Currently, we still have copies of the animated Watchmen Chapter 1, Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earth Chapter 3, Horizon American Saga Chapter 1. I don't know why there's so many chapters in all these
Are
movies.
they going to ever make? Are they going to make the other
He
chapters?
made the second one.
Oh,
already.
he already did.
It just got delayed because of the first one not doing as well. But he actually was glad. He said his intention was never to put them that close together. That was the studio's decision. He loved it. He said, and he could be backpedaling because it didn't do well. But he said he was glad it didn't do, because then he could play it at Sundance or whatever it was at part 2 instead of having a debut at the theater and let it get out there.
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's going to get a theatrical release or it's going to go straight to Max
streaming.
or something. And he says he's still making 3 and 4. It doesn't matter that it's his vision.
If it's his money.
Yeah, he paid for a lot of it himself, and I hope it finds its audience because it's such a great movie. I agree it probably should have been done as a miniseries style thing on streaming,
Yeah.
but he so much believes in the cinematic experience, and the visuals is so sweeping epic in its style that I also get it. I don't mind watching a 3-hour movie if it's a good movie.
Great.
So anyway, we also got some copies of If left, as well as copies of The Watchers and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga.
Sorry. Furiosa. When is that one going to end so I can stop doing Furiosa?
I'm gonna have to take it off this week because I want you to stop doing that too. Anyway, we'll see you next time. Peace out.
That's it. See you later.